Welcome back, everyone, to this next session in the A4Q Testing Summit Edition 2024. I'm delighted to have with me Alexander Bremer. He's given me permission to call him Alex, who's going to talk about frameworks and the context of different frameworks. I'm not going to carry on speaking too much. I just want to hand over to Alex so he can get going, because I know it's going to be of interest to a lot of you. So welcome, Alex. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Debbie, and welcome everyone from my side as well here. Let's have a look here to the testing in the context of other frameworks. Is it here an unnecessary add-on or a crucial capability? Yeah, in the next half an hour, I want to have a look with you together into 4 different other frameworks. How can we combine it here with ISTQB and software testing? Let's start here with our overview. What we want to go through this. Firstly, I want to have a little introduction to the survey here. I want to tell you what we are at the survey doing the whole day. We want to have a look into ISTQB and the growing over the last years here. Then I've prepared here 4 different frameworks: ITIL, COBIT, TOGAF, and Scrum. And we want to have a look here together into this one. How can we now combine testing with these frameworks? What we don't want to have is to build up silos, but on the real world, often when we are talking about frameworks and when they are not integrated very well in the organizations, we have silos everywhere, and there we want to have a look into. And the last part will be here, the reality and some key message. Yeah, I want to start with an overview of the survey. We have here 3 different pillars that are or where we are making some training and consulting. So here you see firstly the service management. For example, we have IT service management with ITIL, but also inside of this here is the IT governance, DevOps, or testing and requirements management, requirements engineering. Project management, the second pillar here, with project management, but also program management or portfolio management. And the last part is the agile world, where we have agile methodologies, transformation, management, and leadership. What you see here is, beside the upskilling, as I already said, we have also some consultants here. So we are combining both the theoretical world with the real world. So we are not only making some trainings happening, but also we are helping the companies to get these frameworks running in the organization. Yeah, numbers don't lie. Let's have a look into the growth of ISTQB. First of all, ISTQB is the leading certification and the certification agency for testing professionals. And when we are looking back into the last years, the demand for not only this certification, but certification in general is strongly growing. And from 2021, where we talked about the ISTQB 3.1 foundation, we have 324 participants in this year, growth in the next year of 30%, and then between 2022 and 2023, we also have a growth in 45% of participants. So last year we have 617 people that are going into ISTQB. Yeah, and as I said, let's have a look here into our frameworks, and let's start here with ITIL. ITIL, the guiding framework for IT service management. Today, I would say it's here a de facto standard. There are some others, but when we are looking to the percentage of organizations that are using IT service management, ITIL is the most used here, and it's mostly known for IT operations. So when I'm talking to other people, often it's be seen here for the operational part, but in fact, ITIL is much larger. And besides the operational part, we also have here the tactical and strategical approaches in ITIL. Yeah, you will see here on the right side the service value system as its overarching framework. This is a very highly overview over ITIL. And we are starting here with the opportunity or demand, and we want to get a value from the opportunity or the demand. The central point that you see here is the service value chain, but it will be helped by the governance practices, guiding principles, and continual improvement to be running. In total, we have 34 different practices with a holistical approach here. So these practices will work together here on the way from the opportunity or demand to the value. And we will also see today here agile and DevOps approaches. So ITIL is not unflexible. We will see here agile approaches. It's today very flexible. We can use it here. It's a framework. It's not a rule that we have to enter here, but we can make here our changes according to the organizational needs. Yeah, but let's have a look now. Where can we find testing here in ITIL? Yeah, ITIL and testing, we have here the practice service validation and testing that will give us here an overview of the testing, where we have three underlying processes: testing approach and models management, service validation, and test execution. Also, we have here three roles described in this context: the testing manager, testing specialist, and the service user. Yeah, the testing strategy here is based on the risk appetite and organizational goals, standards for testing, and repeatable test cases. The service validation, defining and checking acceptance criteria. So as you see here in the picture, and therefore when we have the acceptance criteria, we have to test against these acceptance criteria, and we have to show that the software that is used in the services will lead to these acceptance criteria. In ISTQB, we also have some roles described. Here we have the testing manager and the testers. Here in ITIL, we have also the service user, especially for the user acceptance testing. So here we also have in ITIL contained the user acceptance testing, because when we are looking to the value of a service, influence to the value will be the user experience. And here with the user acceptance testing, we can get the user experience high. Beside ITIL, we also want to have a look into COBIT here. A COBIT is a framework for governance and management in the context of information and technology, or we call it here IT. It's mostly used in insurance companies or finance companies, but also in the public service sector. COBIT contains 40 objectives, as you see on the picture here. It's not very bright, but not very large, sorry, but we are looking deeper into it on the next slide here. Each of these objectives contains 7 components, including parts like culture, processes, but also tools. And additional literature for specific needs is also conducted by COBIT. But once again, let's have a look here into where can we find testing in the COBIT context. Out of these 40 objectives in COBIT, we will see that 2 of these contain testing. Yeah, for managed solution and identification, for managed solution identification and build, we have the perform quality assurance, develop resources, and execute our quality assurance plan aligned with the QMS to obtain the quality specified in the requirements definition and in the enterprise quality policies and procedures. Also, inside of these, we have another, inside of these objective, we have here also the prepare for solution testing. This establish here test plan and required environments to test the individual and integrated solution components. Besides the managed solution identification and build, we also have the objective managed change acceptance and transitioning. Here we have to establish a test plan based on an enterprise-wide standards that defines roles, responsibilities, and entry and exit criteria, like we have also here, for example, in Scrum, but there we will have a later look to this one. But also we have to ensure that the plan is approved by relevant parties. Beside the plan acceptance test inside of the managed change, acceptance and transitioning, we also have here the establish a test environment, because we don't want to test here only in development systems, but we want to have here a realistic testing environment like it's described in ISTQB, because the service is not only running on a high performance cluster, but we want to have a look here how is the software working on the real world, means on a realistic testing environment, like or nearly to the productive environment. Beside ITIL and COBIT, let's have a look now to TOGAF. TOGAF for Enterprise Architecture Management is a framework that enables the achievement of the right balance between business transformation and continuous operational efficiency. Because we are everywhere we are in need of changes. The world is constantly changing, and our organization also has to change to the newer world here. But on the other side, when we are doing one change after another and we are overloading the organization with too many changes, the operational part could be going down here with the efficiency. So we need the right balance between changes, but on the other side, the business must be also conduct its part here. TOGAF contains the ADM, the architecture development method, and the ADM is a tested and repeatable process for developing architecture. It contains here several different phases. You will see it from the preliminary phase over A up to H. There we see here in ITIL and TOGAF, sorry, between the name we have also some so from the preliminary phase up to the architecture change management, we will see here different phases, especially in the information system architecture on phase C and the implementation governance of phase G. We will have a deeper look into, because there we will see our testing here. The objectives of phase C is to develop the target application architecture that enables the business in a way that addresses the stakeholders' concern. So beside phase C, we have also here the objectives of phase G to ensure conformance with the target architecture by implementation projects. Yeah, when you're looking into testing and TOGAF, beside these phases in our ADM, we will see that TOGAF describes 4 different domains: the business architecture, the data architecture, application architecture, and technology architecture. And when we are looking into the application architecture, it's very obvious that we have to test here. But on the other side, we have to ensure that the overlying architecture is supported by the application architecture. So from the business architecture and the data architecture, we will get our requirements that we must meet with our applications, and therefore we are now have the opportunity to test against these requirements or business concerns, stakeholder concerns. On the other side, when we are looking after these implementation to the implementation governance, we have to test here, or we will give out the acceptance criteria for the implementation team so that they can test against these acceptance criteria to exactly know when something is finished and can be implemented into the architecture. And the last framework we want to have a look here is Scrum. Well, Scrum is a framework for developing and sustaining complex products. And it contains here 3 pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. 3 different roles: the Scrum Master, product owner, and developers. 3 different artifacts: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and increment. 5 different events: backlog refinement, sprint planning, review, retrospective, and dailies. And once again, how can we see now testing here? And when we are looking to the 3 different worlds, we have the Scrum Master, product owner, and developers. But when we are looking here to the real world, I often see here and get the feedback from my participants that the testers are often inside of the developers or in the Scrum team as well. So we have here hopefully a great integration, because when we have here the great integration of the testers into the teams, we have a lot of advantages. There are little handovers. We get more and more information from the tester perspective, and we have the opportunity to go into some reviews of draft documents, which is often not the case when we are outside of the team. Once again, we want to have a look here. How can we now insert testing into Scrum? Scrum focuses strongly on high quality products, and this is shown in 2 different artifacts: the definition of done for the team and the product, and the acceptance criteria for stories. So when we are looking into the certified tester foundation level 4.0, we will see here that we as a tester can write together with all these others, like the developers or the product owner or the users, the user stories. So when we have here written together these user stories, we can ensure that these user stories have clear defined acceptance criteria. When you're looking, for example, here to the ATDD cycle, we see that we need here a user story with acceptance criteria, so that we can use these acceptance criteria for the driver of our development. Agile approaches also mentioned collaborative story writing, as I said here, which includes the tester perspective. We need 3 different perspectives here. On the one side, we need the perspective of the tester and the developer, but on the other side, we also need the perspective: if everything is right here, can we or is the user story helping us to get the value? Yes, you see here, all these frameworks can create a silo, silos everywhere. Or Scrum, as a fast development-centered approach, focus on high-quality increments without taking the need for higher-level testing into account here. We are talking about smaller increments here. COBIT, on the other side, an approach written by and for auditors, only relevant when it comes to legal and compliance issues. ITIL, a big framework focused on keeping operations stable, contains many bureaucratic and slow processes that prevent change and collaboration. TOGAF, it provides a framework for change linked to both strategic direction and business value. With too much focus on the technical architecture of business, it will be seen as IT architecture. So I often have here in TOGAF participants that said, oh, it's not only IT, but also contains the business. So you see, it's often seen only for IT architecture. And ISTQB, the attempt to ensure the quality of the products unwelcome to others. And as I said here, when it's not inserted right in the organization, you will see that all these frameworks will build up silos. But our goal is to tear it down. So hopefully with the presentation here, you will see how you can now combine these frameworks to tear it down, to not only see here the smaller but the holistical bigger things, to get it running here together. At the end of the day, we want to have a collaborative approach in our organization. Everybody should be or see the business. Everyone should see here the business strategy, the business vision as its own goal. What is the reality today when we are looking into COBIT? Well, the objective managed solution identification and build clearly describes unit integration and system testing. So in reality, when COBIT is used right, we have here testing inside of it. The objective managed chain acceptance and transitioning covers, among others, acceptance testing in a realistic testing environment. So a second objective where we have testing inside. When you're looking today into Scrum, development teams should have the necessary skills to turn sprint backlog into a releasable increment at the end of the sprint, including testing. So what will happen when we are release the increment without testing it here? All type of testing that are required to produce such increments should be included in the Scrum team definition of done. Larger scale acceptance testing can be found at different stages of the product lifecycle. So despite the fact that Scrum is clearly focused on these increments, we have here the opportunity to have larger scale acceptance testing. When it comes to ITIL, the purpose of the service validation testing practice is to ensure that new or changed products and services meet the defined requirements. So we have clear defined requirements, and therefore we have to test against these requirements before we can deploy here our services. The definition of service value is based on input from customer, business objectives, and regulatory requirements. So you will see here, we have different sources of acceptance criteria. These inputs are used to establish measurable quality and performance indicators that support the definition of assurance criteria and testing requirements. And TOGAF provides a sufficient view for of the organization to manage complexity, support continuous change, and manage the risk of unanticipated consequences. And therefore, you will see, to get here or to manage the risk properly, to get here rid of unanticipated consequences, we are in need of testing. The testing with the help of ISTQB will help us to minimize here these consequences. Here at the end, let's have a look here to the key message of this presentation. Testing is a central competency in all major frameworks, of which we eliminated 4 very different ones in this presentation. But when we are looking to other, we also have here testing as a crucial part. Understanding one's own line of work is great. Understanding others and being able to communicate with each other is the second step. So here, with the help of ISTQB, with the help of getting into other frameworks, we can better understand the needs of different roles in our organization. So it's often very good to not only focus on your own role, on your own environment, but also have a look to the others. With the help of these frameworks, we can get rid of these silos. When we are aware what our other parties are in need of, we can get work, or we can work here better together. Yeah, hopefully we will see us in training here. Come visit us, and thanks a lot here for the A4Q to make this presentation possible.
Hello, Alex. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Do you know, it was really interesting to see a comparison of the different frameworks, and I thought very useful to put testing into the context of those frameworks. Indeed, the holistic view of the team and the collaboration working together, I thought came across very strongly there. Kenza, can I just ask if we have questions here for Alex? Okay. So what value is there for a service manager or service architect to train or certify in software testing? I think you've kind of covered some of this, but maybe a little bit more detail.
Yeah, of course. When you're looking to the service manager as the first question here, it's very good to have an overview. What are the software testers are doing? How can we work together to create here a great service for the customer? So on the other side, when I'm as a service manager, don't exactly know how we can test it, it's very hard to have a chat with the customer on the one side and the tester on the other side. To get these two parts together, I see it as a role as a service manager to build here the bridge, and therefore I need at least here a basic understanding of software testing.
And I guess that extends to other roles as well. Alex, you touched on Scrum, so I'm assuming Scrum Masters, product owners, business analysts, for all having that understanding and the common language could be very, very helpful.
Yes, and the same goes for the software architect here. So when it comes here to a software that will or that should help the business, without knowing here how to test it, it's very hard. Once again, I see here the software architect as a bridge builder to get the needs from a business that is not often written in a way that we directly test it, but with the help of the software architect as a representative of the business, getting into a deeper chatting with the testers, as you said here, the terms, the terminology, and so on is very, very helpful.
Excellent. Do we have another question here? Are there points of contention between approaches, I guess methods, processes within the different frameworks that should be considered, and I guess particularly in respect to testing?
Yeah, I would say sometimes we have here the same terms with a slightly different definition. So it's every time very good, not only in context of the framework, but also in the context of the business, to make here a list what is the definition inside our company for a specific work. Otherwise, it could be possible that we are talking to each other and everyone is clear about it, but has its own definition, and we're working against each other, unfortunately, but this should not be the case here.
Perfect. Well, I think we're coming up to time. So thank you so much, Alex, for your presentation and some things there to consider. For everybody who is watching, please stay tuned. We have more sessions to come, which I know are going to all be very excellent. And don't forget that we're going to have a vote for our best presenter. So we'll give you some details about that shortly as well, I'm sure. Once again, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you.
Thanks again.